So in July, I somehow managed to read 16 books. What? Hi, my name's Paige. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you have been around. I somehow read 16 books, and I don't know what I did to read 16 books, but it happened, and I am here to talk about them. But I don't want to go on and on and on and on and on about all of these books like I did in my June wrap-up, so I am going to try and do this a little bit differently. I want to give a couple quick things that I liked about each book, and then I am going to rank them at the bottom of how I would recommend them to other people. So some of these I might not like as much as other books that I've read, but I would recommend them higher than other books. So if that sounds interesting, stick around. All right, I'm at the end of filming, and I realized that I did not talk about my stats for this month. So this month I did not read any ebooks, and I read 9 physical copies of books and 7 audiobooks. So with audiobooks, I cannot just listen to them on their own, so I did read along with all 7 of those audiobooks. For my star rankings, I had 1 2-star book, 4 3-star books, 6 4-star books, and 5 5-star books. And I read 6,090 pages, which is unbelievable. It's so many. For my genres, I had 6 fantasy, 2 sci-fi, 5 contemporary, 1 classic, and 2 romances. And for the age group of my books, 4 of them were adult or new adult, 7 were YA, and 5 were middle grade. All right, now you can get on with what my thoughts were. First up in the month, I read Pride and Prejudice. I wanted to get this out of the way straight away. I had a really fun time. I made a whole reading vlog of doing this. I ended up really liking it. I do wish that Lizzie and Darcy had more time on screen together, but it was a really fun time, so by default, this ends up being number 1. After Pride and Prejudice, I read On the Come Up by Angie Thomas, and I loved this so much. It's about Bree, who wants to become a rapper, and she wants to get out of the situation that her and her family are in and become a star and have lots of money and not have to worry financially anymore. And I loved this so much. Angie Thomas writes amazing characters. I was in love with Bree's family and her friends and how much they cared for each other, and I hope that there's a second part. I just want to see where her life goes from there. It was good. So this I would put above Pride and Prejudice. Then I read The Deep by Soloman, and it was so good. It deals with a lot of heavy stuff. It's about descendants from pregnant slaves who are thrown overboard, and their descendants turn into these mermaid creatures called the Wajinru. And it just deals with a lot of heavy topics, and I do think that made it feel a little bit like walking through mud when you're reading it. It was really satisfying to get to all the points of it, and listening to the audiobook that's narrated by David Diggs was really great. I just think that the language in this is a lot harder to understand for an everyday reader. If I didn't have the audiobook, I don't know how far I would have gotten, because I felt like it was up there at the tippy top of my comprehension abilities, but it was really good. If you are looking for something that's deep and heavy, this would be a good one for you. Then I took my friend's recommended pick for me, and I read We Are the Ants by Shaun David Hutchison, and I love this a lot. I cried a lot during this. I am a big crier, so it's not shocking that I cried over this, but it was so good. This is one that I think that people who need trigger warnings need to look up before. This primarily has suicide, suicidal ideation, and severe bullying as some of the things that you might want to warn yourself on. And there are a few others that I feel like if you know your triggers, you might want to look them up. But this was just really, really well done. I love this one a lot. Lots of tears in this one. And I will rank this number 2 so far on my list. Then I read my first Brandon Sanderson book, Skyward, and I did a reading vlog of reading this and Starsight. I read them back to back, and I had a really good time, and I will talk about that one in a second. But this one follows Spencer, who wants to become a pilot. This really make sure that she is a pilot. It takes its time. I thought the plot was super slow for a while, but then I really fell in love with that aspect of it, and watching her make a lot of mistakes and think that she knows right and knows what's best, but realizing, oh, maybe I don't. Maybe I'm not as prepared as I thought I was in my mind when I was on my war path to become a pilot. I thought this was really well done. There are 2 characters in this that I absolutely love. Spencer finds them a little later into the story, but they are so cute. This is just overall a really great time, so this bumps into my number 2 spot. After that, I read Starsight, and I did not like this one as much. I had a much harder time getting into this because Spencer goes on a mission in this one, and I did not love how quickly that mission comes about. I felt like this felt more like a third book than a second book in a series, but I'm really excited to see where everything goes from here. I cannot wait for the next one. I just want to know what happens to my two favorite characters, because at the end there's a bit of a cliffhanger. But I did not love this one as much as I love Skyward, and I'm going to rank this below Pride and Prejudice. So then I decided to read along to the audiobook of My Plain Jane, and it was a pretty good time. I can't say that this is my favorite book of all time or anything that I will remember. I've never read Jane Eyre, and this is kind of a retelling of Jane Eyre, like a what really happened type of thing, and it was a fun time. But I didn't know the story of Jane Eyre, so I did have to go and look that up, and it sounds like a story that I would not like very much, so I'm glad with how this took that story and where it went with it. I thought it was really well done. It was really funny, but it wasn't revolutionary to me. I just had a good time reading it, so I would put this below Starsight on my ranking. Then I read New Kid by Jerry Craft, and it was so good. This is a graphic novel about a boy named Jordan who is going to a brand new school, and he is one of the only black students at this school, and he's dealing with how he's being treated at this school and the ways that people are treating him differently and the other black students very differently than how they would treat white students. And it deals with a little bit of bullying and some teachers who are not as tolerant to change as they should be, and I like this a lot. I feel like as a teacher it was a good read for me. It made me realize some things that might happen in schools that I need to look out for a little bit more, and as a teacher myself, what not to do and what not to say, and I just really enjoyed this one. And it was a really short read, and it has some of the cutest chapter headers, I guess, chapter title pages. I just really thought they were so cute. Really thought they were so cute. I don't know if that made sense. I just thought they were so cute, so fun. I liked seeing every chapter. It's just so good. The artwork is really good. I recommend this one. I will say it's going to rank lower than some of the ones that I spent hundreds of pages reading, but I will put this right below My Plain Jane just because it's not a full-on book and I didn't get to live with these characters as long as I would hope for. And then I read King and the Dragonflies, and this one is so good. I don't even know if I have any words to describe how amazing this book is. This follows King, who has lost his brother, and he believes that his brother has turned into a dragonfly. So he tries to go and find his brother every single day after school just to know, like, if he's okay where he is. And this one is heartbreaking. It is following King's grief, his family's grief. It's also following King, who has had a falling out with one of his best friends because his best friend said that he was gay, and King's brother, before he died, warned King against being friends with him because he didn't want King to have people think that he's gay too. And it's a lot of him dealing with heavy things at such a young age, and it's just heartbreaking, but it's amazing. I highly, 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 highly recommend this book, and this one jumps all the way to #1 for me. Then I read Call Me By Your Name, and I did not love this one. I have never really wanted to read this one, but I bought it because it was really cheap and it wasn't anything special to me. I cringed quite a bit with how creepy Elio was a lot of the time, and there were a few scenes that I did not like. I talked about this in my 7 books in 7 days vlog, but there's just some things that you don't need to share with each other, and I'm not talking about the peach scene. The peach scene did not bother me. It's some other ones later that just, not so fun, but it was not the worst. I listened along to the audiobook, and that helped me a lot because those chapters were long. The audiobook chapters were 2 hours long at least. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I wouldn't read it again. But if this is a book that you are interested in 80s romance between two men who can't really be together and who have a pretty significant age gap, 17 and 24, then go for it. But this just wasn't for me, so it's going to go to the bottom of my ranking. Then I read The Hating Game by Sally Thorne, and it wasn't for me. I did not like this one very much. I gave it 2 stars just because it has a lot of problematic stuff in it. I did a whole rant review for this, so if you want to see my thoughts on it, you can go ahead. In that video, I do timestamp so that you can skip a lot of the spoilers, but this just wasn't for me. So I do think that this is a book that more people would want to read over some of the other ones that I've ranked lower, so that is why I'm going to actually rank it a little higher than The End. Even though I did not like this book personally, I think it's more accessible for others than The Deep was or Call Me By Your Name. Then I read I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson, and this one, again, this just wasn't for me. I felt like it was written for teenagers. It follows two twins who have had a falling out between the ages of 14 and 16. So it jumps into the past at 14 years old and jumps into the future at 16 years old, or I guess the present time, and figuring out why they had this falling out. And there were just some things that I was uncomfortable with. There is a 14-year-old in a sexual situation that I did not like to read about, and I didn't love how these two siblings treated each other. They were written as being very, very close to each other, yet they hurt each other in ways that I did not think were okay. And I think this book tried too hard to be philosophical, and it just got pretty tedious to read. If I did not have the audiobook along with it, I might not have finished it. This would have been a DNF, so it jumps right to the end of my list. I don't recommend it. I, as an adult, just wasn't a fan of it. Then I read Nevermore, and I had a really fun time. I read this super quickly though, so a lot of the information did not sink in, but it's really cute. I love the world in this. I loved finding out why Morrigan was taken at 11 years old from where she was living to Nevermore on the night that she thought she was going to die. That whole premise is really, really fun to me, and I loved reading this. I do wish that there were more character relationships, and I was bummed that Morrigan went from a family that was pretty neglectful to living with somebody who I thought was going to be really close to her, but he was often away. So I don't know, it's always a little strange to read 12-year-olds who are kind of left to their own devices a lot as a grown-up, because I don't think I know any 12-year-olds who would be left alone this often. But it was fun. It's really cute. I want to continue with the series. It's not my favorite of all that I have read, but I had a fun time reading it, and the world is really awesome. But I do rank this above The Hating Game. Then I also read The Isle of the Lost by Melissa de la Cruz, and it is a Descendants prequel book. It is exactly what you would think it is. It's very Disney. It is very cheesy, and I did not hate it, but it is way too long. It is about 300 pages, and whew, you get to the 200 mark, and that's where everything on the back starts to happen. And so it took a long time to get through, but I didn't hate my experience. It was a pretty fun time, and now I need to go watch the next movie and read the next book. I do rank this above I'll Give You the Sun though, just because I had a much better time reading this, and I did not want to DNF it. I just didn't want it to be as long as it was. Then I read The Extraordinaries by TJ Klune, and I love this so much. I just filmed a review on that, so look out for that if you want to see what I thought about this. But this was amazing. It's in a world where superheroes are real, and our main character is gay with ADHD, and he's obsessed with superheroes, and it's just amazing. It's so funny. I had such a great time reading this, and I want the next one in the series so badly. So this jumps all the way to number 2 for me. And lastly, book number 16, I read Wondersmith. I did not want to wait a long time between reading Nevermore and this one, and I'm so glad that I did not wait, because this one throws you right into the action again. It does not take a lot of time to remind you of some of those details that you might have forgotten between the first book and the second book. So if I did not read this immediately after reading Nevermore, I probably would have forgotten a lot of details. And I had a good time. I had a much better time reading this one than Nevermore, actually, because I thought the character relationships were a lot better. I felt like Morrigan connected to her friends and her family unit, I guess, a lot better than in the last one, and I like that. I like character relationships. I like found families, and I feel like that's where this is going. She's finding her family slowly. But overall, this was just a really fun time. I love the world still. The world is just so interesting and kooky, and it's just really fun. So I do recommend the series, and I will rank this above Nevermore. So these are all the books that I read in July. I had a really fun time. As for how I would recommend some of these books, these 5 at the beginning I would highly recommend. They are ones that I just felt like really captured my attention and were such a great time to read. This middle section, I would say it's up to you. If the concept sounds interesting to you, then I say go for it. But they could be hit or miss books, depending on what your tastes are. And these last ones at the end, I would only recommend to somebody who is seeking them out. I think that they might not be for everyone. They are going to be pretty specific to your taste. So if you are interested in a harder hitting heavy book, then go with the deep. If you really want to try out Call Me by Your Name just to see what the hype is about, you can. It might disappoint you, it might not. If you have anybody in your family who loves Descendants, that would be why you would read that one. I don't know if you would just want to pick it up off the shelf just because, but I'll Give You the Sun is my least recommended, but if it's something that you're interested in and you want to read that one, then go for it. None of these were not readable. I read all of them and I had a good reading month. So let me know if you liked how I did this. If you would like me to go further into the details about these books, I can do that next time. I just wanted this to be a little bit quicker and more fun to watch than just me rambling on and on and on and on and on about some books. Like this video to let me know if you like this. Comment down below if there are any of these books that you have read or how you might have ranked some of the ones that I ranked. Thank you for watching and supporting me. I will see you later. Bye.